Hi, what does it take for someone that's enjoyed fame, fortune, and notoriety in the world of sport to leave all that behind and travel halfway around the world in order to pursue another career? Well, this next video, I'm interviewing Gavin Peacock, footballing legend, if you're a Chelsea supporter. Hi, and welcome back. Good to see you. And I have the great pleasure of having a chat with, must be famous for a number of you. That's Gavin Peacock, footballer extraordinaire, Kent born. And Gavin and I are going to have a chat, not just about football. So don't worry if you're not into football. It's actually about someone's life journey. So Gavin, welcome.
Hi, Rob. Good to be with you.
Yes, you too. Now we're not near neighbours. You're the other side. The other side of the world to each other. You're speaking from Calgary in Alberta in Canada.
Yeah, long way from home in England, but Calgary's become our home for the last 13 years when we left the UK shores in 2008.
And I have to say, I've read your book here, proudly displayed, even though I'm not a Chelsea supporter. I'm north of the river, but yeah. I did make an exception. I read it is an autobiography of a footballer, but it's so much more than that. So perhaps you could just sort of unpack as an introduction your life in the next few minutes.
Sure. Yeah. No. Obviously, I had a 18-year career as a professional footballer, over 600 games and 135 goals for the likes of Chelsea, Newcastle United, Queen's Park Rangers, and lots of people had asked me, after I finished, write your biography, and I sort of waited a little bit, and then I went into the media, worked for the BBC on Match of the Day for 6 years, and they're saying, well, write your biography now then, and so I waited a bit longer, and then I left the BBC in 2008 and went into church ministry and moved to Canada and finished my theological studies. And after a few more years, someone said, that's quite the journey. You need to write your biography. And I turned 50 a few years ago now, 3 years ago. And I thought, well, 50 is a significant, milestone, half a century. Maybe now is a good time to write my biography because I've got some maturity to reflect on the past few years and on 3 different vocations in life, which is quite unusual. And so really, I would describe my book as a story of life, really, and all of its complexities, set against the backdrop of the beautiful game of football with all the stories and stars and the great games and the great clubs, and yet with the floodlight of my Christian faith shining upon it. And along the way, I deal with lots of human interest things so that people will be able to relate to many different levels to the book. I talk about success and failure, winning and losing. I talk about suffering and disability and mental health and race and family and fatherhood and career and how to kind of start again, even in a new career. So lots of different things along the way. So, and ultimately, I think just pointing people to say that there is a greater glory in life than football fame and fortune, and that glory that I'm pointing to is obviously the Lord Jesus Christ and through my Christian faith.
I think it's a really interesting thing you just said a moment ago, Gavin, there, which is about your 3 careers. That actually that is not uncommon, where people are having to restart their life for whatever reason. So it might be a change of career. It might be that they have to, something's been wiped out. Maybe they achieve some success and it's gone, and they have to restart. So I think there's a very personal message. Just a human story in the book, isn't it? How you
very
move
much
from one to another.
Yeah, and that's why people, I think sometimes you read sports biographies and people like all the stories and that, but it's kind of, well, that's great to read about and an insight, and that's definitely what I give here. And there's some funny stories in the dressing room and the great stories of cup finals and that. But sometimes it's like, well, that's far removed from my life. but I want to make the connections to life in general, so that people that are reading it can actually glean something from it. And you know, even like thinking, you know, like about starting again, or in the business world, or all of these things. There are principles of life that are universal, that run through, you know, success in being a professional footballer, or to being a pundit on the television, or starting again, emigrating to a new country. There are principles that work across the board, and it's being able to apply those. And ultimately where your identity lies, because, you know, if it just lies in that one career or that one area, and then that's taken away for some reason, well, upon what do you stand? And so I think it's a very practically helpful book for people at many levels.
I mean, you retired at the age of 35 from football, or mid-30s, wasn't it?
Yes, 35 I was virtually,
Yeah. And moved into the media world with TV and radio, and 6 years of that. Some would say, well, you had the fame, the fortune, and the football. You could have retired into luxury. So what, I know some of the audience will be really interested. What was the trigger for you to leave the perceived fortune, fame, and all the trappings, and pursue a career in the ministry?
Yeah, so I just got to say that when I retired from football in 2002, I still had a mortgage on my house. So when I was at Chelsea, Glenn Hodder was manager. When I was at Newcastle, it was Kevin Keegan. And I remember at Chelsea, with Dennis Wise was captain, I was co-captain. We'd go into see Ken Bates, who was the chairman, at the end of the season, to fight for an extra 50 quid on our win bonus, because we only got £250 win bonus. And there were guys in the first team that were on £750 a week. And that was, you know, above the average wage in the 90s, but it wasn't the money now. So then I had to work when I finished. And so then it was about readdressing and what do I do? Coaching, something else in business, or the media started to kind of come my way, and it was growing bigger. So I wasn't David Beckham or Alan Shearer retiring and going to get like a nice fat contract. I had to work hard. And I did really well in this second career. And I actually was, in some ways, more recognized in my second career, even than my first, because you're on TV in front of millions every week. I was at World Cups, and I was on the BBC elite team. But there's something in the back of my mind that said, you know, it wouldn't be forever. And I didn't know what I would do next. And I've been a Christian since I was 18 years old. But it was really in 2006, after the World Cup in Germany, which I'd been broadcasting with the BBC. My wife got very sick. She had a kidney infection. She was in hospital for a couple of weeks. It was quite dodgy for a while there. And as often is the case, suffering or trauma or trials, they kind of recalibrate your focus a bit. And I was... You know, I was reading the Bible, and I was reading a section of the Bible. It was talking about, you know, a call to ministry, and something inside me stirred. You know, I'd always been a leader of men on the field. I've been captain at all my teams. I'd been in the communication world in the BBC, conveying things to people. And as I say, my Christian faith was there from age 18, where, you know, football didn't ultimately satisfy. Only Jesus could, and Jesus is there beyond football, and would be there beyond my punditry career. And so I spoke to a few people leadership in the church, and they recognized certain gifts. And I started to actually then do some studies at Cambridge University, some biblical studies, whilst I was still doing Match of the Day. And all the guys I'm studying with, they just wanted to ask me about what I was talking about their team on the Saturday. And I was wanting to study the Bible. But then I knew, I'm going to give this up, and people will think I'm crazy. But I'm going to give this up to take some time to prepare for church ministry and this vocation, which is, it's not going to hit the headlines, but it's something that has eternal significance. And that's what led to the decision to leave the BBC. Canada, we knew, we'd been coming here for quite a few years. And we thought, what about going to anonymity, to go away from everything where people associated football with me, and they just hear what I had to say from the Bible. And so we came here, a view to coming back after a few years, and ended up staying, well, so far for 12, 13 years.
So that anonymity really helped you settle into a new life in a new part of the world for you and the family.
Yeah, it was almost like a reinvention, if you like, in some ways, because everyone associated me with football punditry. They might have known I was a Christian footballer, but this was a time to really kind of strip back everything as well. I mean, I couldn't earn money for 3 years here. I was on a student visa. We were living off savings. It tested our faith out. It tested our family, and our family knit together. That my wife and I and the 2 children. It tested our kids. They were 15 and 12 when we moved. So it was a good test of our faith and character. And it was the hardest. I mean, it's been the hardest sort of 12 years of my life, but the richest in terms of growth in character and faith.
Well, your journey's taken a different route to some footballers in 2 respects. As you were talking there, two things come to mind. One is that in the old days, in the 70s, I remember football when I was growing up as a kid. Footballers, when they retired, used to own pubs.
Yes.
That was it. They'd finished football and they tended to get larger around the girth.
Yes.
As a result of being a publican.
Yeah.
The other more serious difference is that some footballers afflicted by alcoholism, gambling, depression, you seem to have avoided those pitfalls. What's the secret? As someone who has the fame, the money, notoriety, those things presumably you were exposed to, but you didn't go down that path. So interesting to know why.
Yeah, I mean, I played with some of the best footballers of a generation or two. The Paul Gascoignes and the Alan Shearers, young David Beckham, all of those. And I played at the top level, and I saw some talented, very, very wealthy athletes. They weren't happy. They didn't have that sense of satisfaction, and of course their identity then is totally tied up in football. So if football's going well, there might be sort of some satisfaction for a while, but if it's not, and their form falls, or relationships aren't going well off the field, or it ends, then they're craving satisfaction, and they're looking for other avenues. And everyone is in life. Everyone wants to be happy. No one sort of sets out in the morning and says, I really want to be miserable today. And so it's, what are you finding your satisfaction in? And ultimately, as my book says, we were made by God for God. And until you find that, you will never find true satisfaction. You might find a certain satisfaction that lasts for a while, but there'll always be that thing inside that because your identity isn't set right, your purpose isn't on track.
Yes.
Then you can't deal with the other things in life in the right perspective. So I think I was able to do that because of my Christian faith, and it didn't mean I was immune to ever feeling down. It didn't mean it wasn't difficult to start again, but it did give me the right perspective to start again and to move on and to come back from setbacks. And in a good and healthy way. So I think that for me, and one of the purposes of the book is actually to bring that to the fore for anybody. Because there's successful people not just in the football world, but across many walks of life in terms of worldly success. But of course, nothing really lasts. I think the last year has really taught us, in terms of the whole COVID thing is, well, you can't really ultimately rely on your health, because look at all what's happened in the world, and
Indeed.
Everyone's, people are getting sick, and death has been in the forefront more than ever. You can't rely ultimately on money, because, businesses have gone under, people have been under financial stress in many areas, and that can disappear. And even people, as much as you love them and family, and that, we've not been able to see them, in many ways. So properly. And so even though those things are all good things, ultimately they don't last. Everyone will die at some point in their lives. And what are you ultimately living for? There are lots of good things that people are living for, but you want to look at the ultimate things as well, the greater glory. So,
the book. Yeah. Well, a lot of the audience, Gavin, are business owners that are listening and watching this, and some highly successful, some making a living, and some struggling, particularly after the year that we've all had. But there is a common thing, which is trying to find life after sale. In the world that I've occupied the last 20 years. What does life look like after you've sold your business and you're not the owner of a business anymore? You're an average Joe. And you haven't got that significance and purpose in life that you once had when you were building a business. What do you do next? Which is why I think your story is very compelling for business owners, because there's that transferable message. What tip or tips have you got for people that are considering changing their life, finishing one chapter and starting a new one, from your experiences, and you've done it a couple of times or so, any tips that you'd pass on?
Well, actually, as you were saying that, it reminded me of a part in the book where I talk about transferring careers from professional football to BBC Match of the Day pundit, and I actually list a few things that you need to succeed in starting again from scratch. And I think these are principles that would run true for anyone. And the first thing I'd say, is to discern a clear vision of where you want to go and what you need to do to achieve it. And obviously you'll be speaking to other people to help get that clarity. That might involve some tweaks along the way. You might have, okay, this is where I want to go. There might be tweaked along the way, but it mainly stays fixed. So that, when I transferred from football to punditry, or punditry to the ministry, I had clear vision first that this is the way I want to go, and it tweaked a little bit. I was going to Canada, but I thought I might be coming back after 3 years. I've ended up staying a bit longer, but the thing to go was to go. The second thing is, I think that to remember that no one owes you anything. Just because you've achieved success in one field in the past, it doesn't mean that people will or should make it easy for you in the future. So that's a reality check, that no one owes you anything. Because if you go in with a sense of entitlement, you're going to be easily disappointed and disheartened. The third thing is to learn quickly and adapt to new things well. I think this can be more difficult the older you get, to be more flexible.
Ain't that the truth?
Because your brain isn't as agile as it used to be in younger years. That's for sure. I think the fourth thing is to be able to take correction humbly, because you're going to make mistakes if you're starting in a new field, and others will tell you that. So if they care about you, so you've got to take that humbly. Fifth, and there's sort of only a few more here. Observe those that are more experienced than you in this new career and imitate what they do. So I was a good imitator. So I used to watch, and I explain in the book how I watched older professional footballers and what they did and the different practice routines they did, and I would copy them. Now I became my own player with my own style, but I did different things that other people. Same in the BBC. I'd watch the older pundits, Alan Hansen, Mark Lawrence, and all of those guys, and I asked them little tips, and I'd imitate those things. The sixth thing is to aim to succeed and be willing to fail in trying. Every new start comes with risk, so don't be afraid to fail. A great biography that struck me as a kid. Now we're going back to the 70s here. Malcolm Mcdonald was a great striker for Newcastle United in England. Played for Arsenal as well.
And Arsenal, yeah. You nearly forgot that.
Superman. And I read his biography as a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
It was called Never Afraid to Miss. And so the whole theme was, he was a great goal scorer, but he was never afraid to miss. He took the chance of hitting the ball at the goal, and he might miss, 2 out of 3 times, but that one time he scored.
Didn't he actually score 7 for England?
I think maybe 5.
Five, yeah, against Cyprus or something.
Yeah. So he's never afraid to miss, and you get 5 goals for England. Be willing to fail trying, aim to succeed, don't be afraid to fail. Number 7 is focus on producing excellence for others, not just yourself. So having an other-centered perspective is key, and that will help in build good relationships with others. And then the 8th thing and final thing is persevere. persevere, don't give up. And I think all successful people, and I'm not just talking about success in terms of great fame, but you look at people, you say that they've led a good life, they've persevered against difficulties.
Yeah, I've always likened an analogy with that sort of resilience to being a muscle. It's within us all. It's just exercising that muscle that makes us stronger, resilient.
Absolutely. And the more pain a muscle feels in the strain of exercise, it hurts at the time, but afterwards it strengthens. And if you didn't think that, and I talk about this in the book, if you didn't think that through the suffering or through the trial, there was going to be a certain character fitness or spiritual fitness at the end of it, you'd give up. It's like physical fitness. If you hit the gym or you're running, and you run, if you didn't think I'm going to get fit at the end of this, you'd give up. But because there's purpose in it, it helps you persevere through the pain.
There's 8 valuable pointers there. And I have a couple of quick fire questions for you. Feel free to say pass.
Okay. Making me nervous now.
You could tell it's unscripted. The audience can tell it's unscripted. Best Chelsea manager you've had the privilege of working for?
Glenn Hoddle, definitely. Great visionary, not only a great player and visionary on the field, but as a manager. Took Chelsea and transformed us into a cup team and a European team. And in the chapter in the book, my Chelsea chapter is the King's Road Revolution. He made a revolution happen at Chelsea.
Yeah, sadly improved the fortunes of Chelsea. And of course, he studied under Arsene Wenger, didn't he, with the dietary side?
So there you go, as an Arsenal. Well, he was at one time. Big influence on Glenn.
Top English manager, in your view, ever?
Oh, top English manager ever. Well, I mean, it's obviously Alf Ramsey won the World Cup with England. I'm gonna go for Sir Bobby Robson, because I played for Sir Bobby for England under-19s. I got to know him a little bit. He was just, he obviously got Italia 90 was great. And the players that played for Bobby said passionate man, patriotic man, and they all, to a man, loved playing for him. And he did well with England. And
we came very close.
We came close. Venables, of course, with Euro 96. And then, both Bobby Robson, Venables, I talk about in the book. He was my first ever manager when I signed for QPR. Really? He pulled me into 2 England training squads, another highly intelligent, shrewd manager. And if I just say about managers in the book, it's also a study of leadership through these great managers like Keegan and Hoddle and Venables and Robson and Jerry Francis. And so I learned a lot from these guys in terms of leadership, from just studying them and working under them.
Yeah. Thank you. One final question. You've had several chapters in your life so far, and you're only halfway through your life statistically.
Hopefully.
God willing.
Yeah.
What's the next chapter for Gavin Peacock? Do you have an insight into that?
Well, no, I mean, I am where I am at the moment. I'm a pastor in the local church here in Calvary. Interestingly, I came to anonymity, and yet doors have been opened for me to go back out there and speak globally. I get invited to speak all over the world on my career and faith, obviously preaching and teaching the Bible. And, something that I'm probably interested in pursuing more and more is stuff like this, is making the connections between these, being a top professional athlete or succeeding in TV punditry to the business world, and maybe doing some talks to businesses and making those connections, because I think there's a lot to be gleaned from that, and wisdom for life stuff. So I think that could be something that I expand into. And of course, I've obviously, I'm writing. I wrote that book. I didn't use a ghostwriter. like most people use a ghostwriter or someone that's a professional writer, but every word is my own in that. And so I actually enjoy the creative process of writing that story. So there might be another book in there in terms of, I've thought about a book on leadership, studying 5 great leaders I played under, drawing principles out of that, even something like that, something on fatherhood and the need for men to step up and be fathers in the home, but also fathers in life to other people, mentors.
Mentoring, yeah.
There are many people that need men to be mentors to them in this world. And so I think, it's a great time to build men up. Often the world is telling them that masculinity is toxic and men are the problem. I say, no. Wickedness is the problem and sin is the problem, not men. Men that stand up and be proper men actually are the solution to much of the problems in the society today. So I feel that men need a good and strong encouragement to step up to being noble, chivalrous, and men of integrity.
Well, I'm sure a number of people that have just heard you in the last half an hour, Gavin, business people, will be looking to engage you, because there is definitely a transferable message between the world of sport and business, for sure. Others have been there before. And it's a very strong message. So how best can they get in touch with you?
People can get in touch with me through, email address.
We can show that at the end.
You can show that. I'm on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. And
if they want to buy a copy of your book, they've just gone to amazon.co.uk.
Yes, amazon.co.uk. It only came out on last month. It's been out literally 1 month, but it's going quite well. They tell me it's gone to a second print, so it must be fairly well. But no, honestly, I think it's one of the things the publishers did is price it well as well, because it's a hardback. I think it's $11.99. It's for a hardback, 250 pages or 246 pages. It's good value and something people.
It is. I was surprised. I was going to say to you, I reckon you could double your price.
Well, I think, we just wanted to get it into people's hands.
So. And you get photographs as well.
Yeah, there's a few photos in there.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. You've been very, very generous with your time, Gavin. So thank you. And for those insights and tips that you've given people. And I do wish you well for the next part of your journey, wherever that might lead.
Well, thanks, Rob. It's been a real pleasure to be on here. And, I'm thankful to God for giving me my life and career and then this next vocation as a pastor. So
brilliant. Bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin.